This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from noon.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gooner Ramble. This evening I've got the absolute delight of recalling Arsenal's game against Bayern Munich yesterday evening, a 5-1 drubbing out in Germany against the Bavarians. I'm joined with Akhil. Akhil, how are you, mate?
Yeah, bearing up.
No surprises there. And Clive, the wonderful Clive, how are you tonight, my friend?
Yep, I'm okay, and looking forward to some cathartic chat with you guys, so let's get on.
So as you can tell, positive vibes and tones all round. It's going to be a long one tonight, I feel. It was certainly a rather disheartening performance from Arsenal last night, to say the very least. It was a real thrashing that we got out there in that second half. Clive, I'll come to you first. First and foremost, going into the game, there was a strange sense of optimism going around. Did you buy into that at any point?
Of course I did. I'm a football fan, right? So you forget all the previous scars and all the previous big defeats. You forget them all. And you immediately think you're going to get a draw or a win, right? So it's quite interesting online all day. There was such excitement. And sometimes, we take these Champions League games for granted. But when the day actually comes about, I don't know if it's just me and the way I look at football, but I was really generally excited and nervous and really looking forward to the game as much as any game this season. And so, yeah, I was optimistic. There seemed to be lots of good vibes about team selection and yeah, just normal pre-fan optimism, right? And settled down for the game. And yeah, I bought into it, but I always do, right? I'm a fan. And sometimes when you're a football fan, reason doesn't come into it. You're just excited to see your team or compete at the top level of European football. I do take that as a privilege. So yeah, I was looking forward to it. And then the team selection came out. I dipped a little bit when the selection came out. I did hope that Danny Welbeck would start. I was concerned about our sort of inexperience of Iwobi, for example. And so there's a couple of positions that I wasn't really too keen on. But then I thought, let's see how this plays and let's see what formation we come out with and what our structure's going to be before I sort of, throw myself into a well. So that's how I saw it pre-game.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny what you say there about the lineup, because it was almost as if a lot of Arsenal fans had feet before the game had even begun when that team came out. There was a huge sense of just negativity right before the whistle had gone in that first half. And Ax, I'll come to you. What did you make of the team selection? As Clive said, we started with Iwobi and we moved Chamberlain out to the flank. I don't think that particularly favoured his performance. Or Coquelin and Xhaka starting in midfield. Played a 4-4-1-1, which you kind of have to look at and think Arsene Wenger has taken into consideration the opposition ever so slightly, adjusted the team and the tactics that bit more to kind of work in our favour. And at times it did, but we were overrun for the whole of that game pretty much, especially in that first half. We had 20% possession. I mean, it's futile, really. What did you make of the team, mate?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Kieran Gibbs in, I thought I totally understand that. Even though Monreal might be the slightly more solid one, I thought with Robin, with Costa, with Douglas Costa, you've got speed there, so I understood that. Chamberlain playing out wide, I thought, yeah, okay, I kind of still get it. I get that he might do a bit more work going the other way, and especially because he's been playing central recently. He's got that. He's had 3 games where he has had to track back, so it's kind of in his mind frame at the moment. So I thought that I got that. But yeah, Danny Welbeck not playing was gutting, and I can only imagine that he's not 100% fit yet. Potentially can't handle a game of that intensity. I don't know, maybe it's because we knew we wouldn't have the ball much and he'll be doing a lot of chasing. I don't know the reasons, I'm speculating. But whatever it was, I was very disappointed that Danny Welbeck didn't play, especially in the build-up. We heard Rio Ferdinand talking about how Danny used to play the big games at Man United, how he went to the Bernabeu and scored, how he played well at Munich. And you just thought, Danny Welbeck there he gives you maybe a little bit more composure going forward than Alex Iwobi does. I mean, Iwobi will get there, but and potentially gives you a bit more of a goal threat. Welbeck, and obviously, you know, he works his socks off. So you thought 65 minutes of Danny Welbeck there would have been great. The rest of it, yeah, I kind of got it. I mean, you know, there's a shout that maybe El Neni could have played in there. You could have potentially played 3 central midfielders. But I mean, generally, you know, it was probably bar the Welbeck one. I was thinking it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, I mean, once the game started and you were 10 minutes in, you kind of thought, wow, actually, this doesn't look right or feel right, because Bayern were all over us.
Yeah, as it has been for the majority of our recent fixtures, it's just been so disjointed. The team just didn't really look settled from minute one. We were just so overcome by, I think, the occasion on the day. I don't think Iwobi particularly got himself into the game. And as you mentioned there, with Danny Welbeck having that experience of playing against Real Madrid, Munich, playing in these big games for United, playing in big games in general throughout his career, for me, he would have just been the obvious player to start. And as you said as well, I don't want to speculate on it too much because we don't really know what's going on behind closed doors with regards to his fitness. But he's been back a month now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add there is obviously he had a long-term injury. He then came back. He played well. You know, he scored that goal at Everton. He scored against Watford. He scored, you know, and he was playing well. And then he got the knee injury against Man City away, and possibly that's playing in the mind as well. Maybe that, you know, did we rush him back, or maybe not rush him back, but did we overplay him? And maybe that's in that's kind of in Arsene Wenger's mind as well. Because at the end of the day, you know, this was one game. Danny Welbeck, another long-term injury, and his career could be in real trouble. You know, having 3 or 4 in a row. So it's also, he's a human being. We have to look after him as well. But in an ideal world, I would have loved him to play last night.
Yeah, I mean, just to have gotten some time off the bench as well. I was a bit disheartened when I saw Olivier Giroud coming on instead of Danny Welbeck, because I don't think Giroud really registered a touch in the game, whereas Welbeck, you think in, you know, even when it was 4-1, if we'd have got a goal back, it would have still given us a little bit of hope, 4-2, going back to the Emirates to at least, you know, to instill some belief in us, because it was just so disheartening at the end of the game. But we didn't even see Theo Walcott start against the defence of Javi Martinez and Mats Hummels. I was really surprised to see Theo Walcott drop, because we didn't have so much pace in the side. Our only real outlets going forward in terms of pace and width for Alexis Sanchez and Oxlade-Chamberlain. Sanchez, for me, really struggled to get into this game, as did Ozil, as did anyone beyond the midfield, really, because we were camped in our half for so much of the game. But Clive, I'll come back to you as well, because I don't want to talk for this game for any longer than I have to, really. That first goal, we'll get into the goals because that's probably going to be quite a long topic. The first one was just so simple for Bayern. Ian Robin on that right-hand side doing what he does best, his simple move. Francis Coquelin, the guilty party here, and cutting in. And with a beautiful curling effort into the top corner past David Ospina. What did you make of the start from Arsenal and that goal in particular?
So let's just take it back a little bit to a team selection, right? So what's actually happening here, right? So we're caught. We are still developing a style of play. We don't know what it is. All day we were trying to select the team, trying to select the formation. We didn't know what it could be. It could have been one of a number of things. We could have all named 10 different sides, right? So, and that tells you that we haven't got our identity sorted out yet. We haven't got our playing identity sorted out, and it's February. We're halfway through February, and we're coming to the money months. That's a real problem. That's a real problem. And the selection to me reeked of, how can I get my better players in the team, create a shape that could hopefully keep me in the tie, without really saying I want to go for this or I want to hold this. So we picked what I call a halfway house team, a 4-1-4-1, which we've used. Sorry, a 4-4-1-1, flipping to a 4-4-2, which we've only used at small periods in the season, right? So we're now doing it for Bayern Munich away. So I think, to me, that tells me we're not clear on our strategy. If we were going to play a more defensive team, then you pick people like El Neni for type 3 and you go from there. If you're going to pick an attacking team, then you make sure you have the speed of Walcott, Welbeck, whoever, on the break. And when you saw Alexis running, having Martinez and Hummels back that one time, you thought to yourself, oh my goodness, if we just had one of those two on the pitch, they would be stepping back, they would be afraid, we could have running targets. So we were caught between strategies. We didn't pick a team to hold the game, we didn't pick a team to win the game. We picked a team, in my opinion, to pacify certain individuals. And I think, if you read between the lines, and there's lots of rumour and conjecture going on at the moment, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, there are some players wondering what the manager is doing. And if the manager is not selecting the right players, players lose respect. Players almost expect the manager to pick certain people because they've played well in previous games or they're playing well in training. And at the moment, the motivations for selecting the sides, they're quite difficult to read, both on players and the formations. So that's one thing. As you move on to the first goal, another lightning rod for our criticisms, although I do think as fans we need to move beyond individual player criticisms because we've got a lot more going on. And how Robin worked against Coquelin and Iwobi on that left-hand side. And Gibbs, and the three of them, they're just not defensively intense enough. Not any of them. Coquelin, he plays with a lot of heart, but he plays with heart first, not his head first. And the ball, they do a little move between Lahm and Robin. Ball comes back to Robin. And the whole of the Western world knows what he's going to do, apart from our tackling centre midfielder who's got a specialist job, which is to close people down and create turnovers and transitions. And he decides to go the wrong way and he whips it top corner. I mean, how did you feel when that happened? There was nothing new there, was it? It's not if you've not played Bayern before, not if you've not seen Robin before. And it just makes you think, the first emotion that comes to my mind is that just looks too easy and it looks inept and it looks unprofessional at this elite level. And that's how it felt, and then the game, we stand there and we just watch our wide men, Iwobi and Oxlade-Chamberlain, literally doing 15-yard shuttles back and forward as we travel across the pitch while they do the horseshoe around us, waiting for us to get tired to pick us off when somebody jumps out of the line and go in behind us and create danger. So that's how the first half has gone. And we've seen that in the Emirates. We've seen that away before. And we haven't worked out a strategy. After all these times of playing Bayern, the best way to play them is to press them back and have speed up top to make them fearful. They had their fastest defender in Boateng not on the pitch, and we didn't have an offensive strategy to damage them. And let's talk about our offensive strategy, because we haven't got a defensive strategy, so we had to have a really offensive strategy. And I was listening to Woz the other day, we had a little chat, and Woz said we should be bold. We should be really bold. We should go for them. He picked his team and I picked my team. And we had fast forwards in the teams. We had them. They were there. None of us picked Iwobi. None of us picked this halfway house team. We decided we have to go for it away from them to make them worried. And I felt that we did neither, and we got found out.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd wholeheartedly agree with that. I think I had a similar chat with Woz as well regarding the team lineup, and it both included Xhaka and Chamberlain playing in a midfield pivot, and ahead of them Walcott, Alexis and Welbeck. And can you imagine if we'd have started with those players that drive in midfield, the spraying balls of Granit Xhaka as well? I mean, it would have been incredibly exciting, this game. And yes, we probably would have still conceded a few, but at least would have shown some intent and been able to have got behind this Bayern Munich defence. It's really annoying how conservative we played yesterday, because we had so much to offer in terms of the players we had on the bench. You just saw the minute Theo Walcott came on how much he offered in a way. We almost had a chance within 5 minutes of him being on the pitch. So it's perplexing, and the mind really boggles as to why these players didn't get a chance right from minute one. But obviously that was in Arsene Wenger's game plan, and
I still think there was enough there to.
It shouldn't have got battered in the way that they did.
Well, no, but I mean, there was enough there to do something on the counter. I mean, obviously, we did have those two chances before half time. Take one of those. Obviously, it potentially is a different game. But just that move, with Ozil and Sanchez going, it was basically just them two. And having sort of watched it on TV and not being in Munich, I kind of got the commentary. I got the stuff I wouldn't normally get, and the commentator even said it's Arsenal's main two going forward here. But apart from that, it didn't really happen. It didn't really happen at all. And yeah, we couldn't really string passes, and every pass looked like it was hard work. Like every time we did get the ball and we looked forward, it looked like it was hard work. And every every ball was either in the air or to the left, to the right of who it's meant to go to, and everything just looked really hard. But I mean, yeah, obviously we've talked about Welbeck and I would have loved it, but I still think there was enough in that maybe to do a bit more. And to be fair, for 50 minutes, at half time we went in thinking, oh, we got battered for half an hour, but actually we were all right in the last 15. So a bit more of that, please, Arsenal. But it never quite happened.
No, and we'll get on to why it didn't happen in due course. But we did get a goal back, and there was that real injection of positivity towards the end of that first half. I mean, it was a rather scrappy goal, to be fair. Alexis with the penalty, which is saved by Neuer, and then he has about 16 goals to try and get it in the back of the net. But credit to him, took it down really well, got it in the back of the net to make it 1-1. And then in such quick succession, we had that chance. Again, a wonderful counter-attack. Oxlade-Chamberlain going forward, playing it into Granit Xhaka, who, if he'd have put it anywhere else, makes it 2-1, but unfortunately it was straight at Neuer. And then not too long after that, as you say, that wonderful bit of interplay between Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil, a chance that I think he really did spurn. He should have done a lot better with that, in my opinion. But
so, Cookie, when Ozil went for that chance, what did you think? Do you think he would score?
No. Exactly. I honestly didn't. It's the sign of a man that has
Did you
no
think
composure.
he would score? Did you think he would score?
Nah.
Did you think he lacked conviction? Did it surprise you, that finish? Did it surprise you? The goalkeeper nearly called it on his knob, didn't he, really? Let's be honest, right? So, and that's a problem. And we need to face up to it. We need to be honest about what we're seeing, right? That did not surprise any of us. We've seen that before. We've seen that lack of conviction, that lack of desire, that lack of intensity. If you're asking why our possession percentage was so low, it's because we can't keep up. We're stupid in how we press. We're not intense or athletic enough across the ground. We can't keep up. We can't press people in possession. We can't get their heads down. We can't take the ball from them. So what do? When we see these players who look technically superior to us, we then drop back into our formation. But not all of us drop back, because our superstar centre-forward was doing a one-man pressing job on his own. And when you looked at him playing, you looked at his intensity levels and his fitness levels, and you thought, he's ahead of our players. He is ahead of our players. He is world class in his movement and his intensity and his intentions to play. He doesn't play well all the time, but I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you are good. You are at their level, and we need to get more people like you, Alexis Sanchez, that can play at that level so we can compete with this team, and stop conning ourselves that some of the players that we have or anywhere near him or near some of the players that Bayern have. And by the way, this is not a great Bayern team. They will not win the Champions League. And it's going to make us look really, really embarrassed when they get knocked out by someone like Seville.
I mean, Lee Dixon even said that Bayern didn't really have to do much to win 5-1. And it's amazing saying that.
No, I mean, in that first half, they didn't... I mean, they had their fair share of possession, certainly, but they weren't being so rampant on our goal as we've seen in recent years. Yeah. I remember when we played Pep Guardiola last year, and it was just constant pressing, shots after shots. And I just didn't see that from Bayern Munich last night. I mean, the first half an hour, they had their fair share of possession, but they weren't creating a great deal of opportunities. You always felt if we were able to get them on the counter, then we would have our chances. But I mean, it was infuriating that first half, in the way that they were so rampant against us, and it was almost ridiculous that we went in at half time level with them, because they were so dominant throughout the course of that game. But we'll talk now about the capitulation from Arsenal in that second half. It's a real shame because, as I said previously, we went into that second period with so much positivity behind us, following a couple of great chances, following a really rejuvenated last 15 in that first half after what had been a really poor performance. But the second half, I mean, first 5 minutes, Laurent Koscielny going off, there was that whole incident with David Ospina, the shoulder injury. He seemed to be down for about 5 minutes, and Koscielny goes off with a hamstring injury. Gabriel Paulista comes on, and just everything fell to pieces. Axe, staying with you, did you honestly trust Gabriel to come on and for Arsenal to not concede again?
I watched it with a mate, and he straight away said, "Danger here, danger," and he was right. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the one bit of optimism I had was we actually did start the second half well for about 2 or 3 minutes. We had obviously we had the ball a little bit. We had the corner shout and all that sort of stuff. But in amongst that, the Koscielny injury, did I think? I mean, yeah, I thought this has the ability to really sort of dysfunction, just kind of do something to us. Did I think it will be that impactful? No. Do I actually think Gabriel was at fault himself for any goal? Probably not. But what it does is, you suddenly have a left back who was playing alongside a certain type of centre back who now feels maybe I have to adapt my game. You have Mustafi who now thinks actually I'm now the leader of this defence. I need to, which was maybe why he was telling Bellerin whatever he was telling Bellerin at the third goal. So that, and then the midfield maybe think, okay, maybe we have to protect a little bit more because Koscielny's a different sort of player. So I don't think individually it had as big an impact as people may think, but collectively it certainly did. Yeah,
I mean, it caused a great deal of disruption, but I don't want to entirely pin the blame on Gabriel because it was a collective, the way we capitulated in that back line. And Mustafi as well. Clive, what did you make of Mustafi? Because alongside Koscielny, I thought he was doing okay, but the minute Gabriel came on, I mean, it was like he was a totally different player.
So I got full disclosure here. Mustafi's always been someone I've been a bit 50-50 on. This is not just me picking on him because he had a bad game. I think before he got injured, before Christmas, he was doing quite well. He seemed to be bringing a lot of things that we needed. And his performance versus Costa in the 3-0 Chelsea, I was at that game, was as good as I've seen for many years as an Arsenal centre-half. I thought this is exactly what we need. A front foot leader, engager that smashes people and wants to get stuck in, communicate. And when we lost him for Everton and City week, I felt we missed him. I felt we missed him from where our back line was. I thought we got a lot deeper. We conceded in those games. We were far too deep. So I thought he'd sort of won me over, but I did have a good look at him before he came to Arsenal and the way he played. And my son's a fullback and he tackles just like him, actually. He's always on his backside doing slide tackles. And basically that's what Mustafi is. He's one of those fullbacks that not quite agile and fast enough to be a fullback all of the time, but he's quite good in the air. So he's about 5'10", 5'11". He's not tall, he's not dominant, but he's very fast into the challenge. So he attacks the ball very quickly and he reads the game on the front foot. Once you get him in behind, he is quite slow. If you get him in the box, he does not dominate. He can win the first ball header because he creates running jumps and he uses his height that way. But when he's in his box, he can be picked on. And I felt Lewandowski picked on him. I thought he didn't handle the stress correctly when Koscielny went off. Exactly why you buy these players is at 35 million is to bring some experience and leadership to the team. And I tell you what, for the first time in a long time, I long for Per Mertesacker.
Yeah,
I long for him. I never thought I would say it, but this is a deep line defence, and that guy would have led that defence in a different way. But, we all know that he's not the long-term answer as well. So we've bought a centre-half that's not, in my view, physically dominant enough. He's not fast enough over on the back foot, and I don't think he's good enough in the air. Koscielny is a fantastic covering, reading defender, but he's not super dominant in the air if you get him into the box. He's much better in one-on-one challenges. And that's what Arsenal centre-halves need to be. They need to be one-on-one experts because they don't get a lot of midfield protection. So I felt we really handled that substitution badly. It seemed obvious to me that he was injured in the first half. They strapped him up at half-time. They should have made that substitution at half-time. They should have calmed the situation down. So we're going to make substitution. We may need to change the formation to give more protection. And be adult. Be elite. So we've lost our captain and our centre-back. We may go to a 4-3-3 to make sure we protect the back two. What do? We watch him stretch himself out one more time. We make a substitution quite early, and we just throw on Gabriel into a situation which is exactly the same, where basically we've got two wingers in midfield and a running, tackling midfielder trying to hunt the ball down that had 6 passes and no tackles in the whole game. And we've got Xhaka back after about a month. We should have made adjustments to the formation to protect the team. And if you're a serious club, that's what you do to manage an event like that. So what do we do with that event? That gave us the excuse for us to do what we always do. Normally it's a sending off in these games. We lose, we've lost We've lost goalkeepers in the past. We've lost Van Persie in the past. We've lost a player in these big European games, and that gives us an excuse to hang on to. But I don't want this to be an excuse, because we're a smart enough club now to handle changes, handle injuries without that sort of capitulation. But you know what? Maybe we're not, and maybe that's what we're going to come on to. Maybe we're not that smart. Maybe we're not that serious. Maybe we're not that prepared for this scenario. That's how it looks, because we look completely bereft of any structure, any leadership the moment Koscielny went off. And by the way, his value has probably gone up fivefold just by getting injured and coming off in that game.
Okay. And Axe, coming to you, just briefly on the subject of Laurent Koscielny, we're obviously going to be without him for giving us a hamstring injury about 2 to 3 weeks. How do you think that's going to affect the team going forward for these games coming up against Sutton United and that big one coming up against Liverpool as well?
Yeah, well, what is it, 15th of February? Was it 5th of March? So he might, if we're lucky and it's not too bad, he might only miss one game. So at the moment we don't know. Obviously we want him, we need him for Liverpool for sure. But at the moment I think it's just too early. I think there's potentially he could even be back for it. I don't know.
Okay. So just regarding the rest of that game against Munich, obviously it was, as I've said before, utter embarrassment towards the end, conceding 4 goals in that second half, starting off with Robert Lewandowski getting the better of Shkodran Mustafi to make it 2-1, and then not too long after that, Thiago Alcantara adding 2. But that final one, the icing on the cake from Thomas Müller, who's been out of goal-scoring form, getting the best of Oxlade-Chamberlain, who had a right mare at the end of the game to make it 5-1. Dismal from Arsenal. So, Clive, how do we look at this game? Because we've seen it so many times in the past. There's been no progression. There was nothing positive to talk about last night, and it is quite frankly heartbreaking and saddening talking about it. So, how do we move on from this?
That's a big question, right? So, I think one thing we have got over the last few years is we've got a number of these capitulations, right? We can all remember them, going back to the 8-2, the 6-0, the 6-1, the 5-3. We can name them all, right? So, and I often think to myself that no other big club gets hammered like this. I've not ever seen a Barcelona with a 6-0 against them, right? Or a Bayern Munich or a Madrid or.
Well, you say that. To be fair, Barcelona did lose 4-0.
Yeah, but I said 6-0. But yeah, do you see what I mean? I never see that in the what I call big games.
It doesn't happen often, yeah.
It doesn't happen in big games, right? So I know, okay, Barcelona beat Real Madrid 5-0 a few years back, and they still talk about it today, right? It doesn't happen in big games. It doesn't happen too often. And I just feel I've always had this little phrase in my head that Arsenal are the smallest big club in the world. I think we don't quite own our size as we should do, right? And I feel as a club on the playing side, we're quite vulnerable. We're built on sand. We're built on a philosophy which is built on what we do on the ball. Yet when things don't work for us, when the day's not sunny, off the ball, we are atrocious. And it's quite interesting listening to Oliver Kahn, a little comment I read today, saying that is the worst off the ball team I've seen for years. And that is damning. I mean, it's been a tough day for most Arsenal fans, looking at everybody in the Western world telling us how bad we are, right? So, but, and deep down, it's hard to disagree with a lot of it, right? So even though we want to defend, it's very hard to disagree with a lot of it. Off the ball, we have no strategy. We have no defensive strategy. We have no structure to turn to. So we can fold. We can capitulate. We are not conservative. We are not pragmatic. We do not know what to do when the flow is not working. We do not manage moments well. And it's been a theme for many, many years. And it's become to a point last night, something seminal about that game last night. And I don't know why, because we've been here before, but it just felt different. It felt seminal. It felt like enough now. This is too many times. This is too hard to take. We're not learning. We're not progressing. We're trying to survive at the current state rather than thrive and move forward. And the club is now set up to move forward, and maybe we haven't got the people infrastructure to move us forward. But you've heard me say this before, those on the pod, I've always said we struggle. We've got to this point. We've created this monster club. We've created this club with 9+ million Twitter followers. We've got millions of fans around the world. We've created this situation where we've got 600 employees. We've got a £17,000 share price. We've got this monster of a club with revenues close to Bayern Munich, and we don't know what to do with it. That's the truth. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know what to do to actually be that big club and be as big as we actually are. We haven't got the people to lead us forward, and that is clearly obvious. And the one person that's a single point of failure is our manager, and that's why the focus is always onto him. When actually this is a leadership issue. This is a fact. This is a board issue, top to bottom. We have no clear strategy. Our board is opaque. We don't know who our manager reports to. There is no reporting structure. There is no David Dean type link person. There is no Danny Fitzman type person. Ken Fryer's too aged. We haven't got the people structure we used to have. Hence, we stopped winning the big trophies. Simple as that.
Okay, and on that note, Akhil, I believe you've got a special guest that you spoke to earlier on in the day.
Yep, so I spoke to Chris Wheatley, who writes for Goal. He's the Arsenal correspondent. He used to be an Arsenal blogger, so he's very much one of us, a fan. And we talked a little bit about the press conference, about Arsene Wenger, and generally the atmosphere yesterday. So we'll hear from Chris now. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Akhil. I'm great, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, okay-ish. It's not been a great day. It's not been a great 24 hours, but hey. So you were in Munich. As I'm talking to you, you're actually still in Munich. You obviously watched the game from the ground. You were in the press section. You were in Arsene Wenger's very, very short press conference. I mean, firstly, what are your thoughts on the game, and what was the vibe in sort of the press area? What were, we've seen a lot of opinion articles today on Arsene Wenger from a lot of journalists. Many journalists have kind of, have hinted that he should leave before sort of yesterday, but I think now there seems to be a little bit more. It's kind of going to happen, but what was the vibe you got?
Well, firstly, in terms of the game, I thought obviously the turning point was when Laurent Koscielny hobbled off, and the two goals conceded in the 53rd and the 56th minute were pretty abysmal. And Wenger immediately attributed those goals to the fact that Koscielny wasn't on the pitch, which wasn't really an excuse. But to be fair, he wanted that press conference over and done with as soon as he walked in the room, and can't really blame him. He ran up the steps, sat down with the communications chief, Mark Gonella, and only answered 3 questions from members of the media. It was just over and done with.
From? Who were they?
I think it was a Sky Sports journalist.
Right.
I'm not sure about the other two. It was just sort of generic questions regarding the game and generic answers in response. Wenger also said that he, whatever he says is going to be, taken out of basically context and used against him after the result, which again is probably a fair comment. But what do you expect after losing by such a bad scoreline? You can't really defend that performance, and I think that's why he wanted it over and done with so quickly.
And I mean, did it look prearranged to you? Because it was actually Mark Gonella that stopped, kind of said that's it, didn't he? It wasn't Arsene Wenger kind of walked off. It was Mark Gonella. Am I right in thinking?
It was, yeah. Mark just said, thank you, and walked off, and Wenger followed him. And I'd imagine it would be a prearranged thing, and I'd imagine it would have been Arsene Wenger who said, I don't want to answer any questions. It's a bit of a shame. I was actually asked by a German journalist as well about the players in the mix zone, and obviously none of the Arsenal players spoke to the media after that match. But in Germany, it's completely different. if players lose, doesn't matter what the scoreline is, they will still come and talk to the journalists and give their opinion on the match, which I think is actually quite refreshing.
Yeah. But is that not normally the case in England as well? Don't a couple of players normally always stop?
From my experience in the job so far, I haven't been in the job that long, but I've been to most of the top clubs. Generally, the top players, they don't stop. It's very difficult to get a player to stop after a defeat in England. Abroad, I just think it's completely different, especially the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was they weren't allowed to stop, perhaps, because if Arsene himself had decided he's not going to answer too many, then obviously maybe putting players out there wasn't the right thing to do. And what was kind of the atmosphere around sort of the English press? I mean, obviously the German press have their own ideas. They're obviously focusing on Mesut Ozil and Mustafi for obvious reasons, but what was the view of those regular English British journalists who follow Arsenal quite a lot, or are sort of chief football writers from the various newspapers?
Yeah, just from speaking to a few in the press room and just overhearing conversations, the general feeling is that Arsene Wenger is set to go at the end of the season, and that was basically the consensus from everyone who was talking. Everyone was saying that surely he's not gonna last now. And I do feel that with Arsene Wenger, he does deserve respect from members of the media and obviously fans as well. Obviously, after such a disappointing defeat, he's not going to be praised and he's not going to be lauded.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
but at the same time, I do feel like he does deserve just a bit more respect when people are talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there that sort of the general view there was that Arsene Wenger will move on at the end of the season. I mean, was this more people's opinion, or was it things they'd heard? Were there leaks from places, or was it just literally gut instincts?
I'd say definitely opinion. So quickly after the game, I mean, Arsene Wenger hasn't indicated whether he's going to stay or go. He's already said he's going to make a decision at the end of the season, depending on how the team has performed. Whatever Arsene Wenger's barometer of success is, that's going to tell us where he's going to be this summer. And personally, just from the way he's talking in the press conference and stuff, I get that impression as well. I think pretty much every journalist and loads of fans as well have said today that, surely from the way he's talking, it's probably going to be his final season at the club, which I think is actually quite sad because the manner in which Arsenal lost yesterday, it didn't play like a team at all. It was very similar to the way Barcelona played against PSG a previous night. And, to put it quite simply, Arsenal didn't play as a team. I think that's really the explanation behind defeat.
No, but completely. I mean, I remember being at the AGM, and even a few people there thought that Arsene Wenger's kind of speech to shareholders and to media in the room was quite, like it was a bit of a farewell and things like this. And I think, I'm sure you've seen the BT Sport press the interview after, and that was about. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, this is probably one of the few games I have missed, and you get to see it from a different angle, and you get to watch the post-match reaction, and I've never heard Arsene Wenger like that, and I usually always come back and rewatch games and watch kind of things like that, and I've never heard him that flat, and I saw a piece today by John Cross from the Mirror who had talked about, in his 20 years of covering Arsene Wenger, he doesn't think he's ever seen him like that either. And it just seems like mentally, perhaps, he's just, potentially just kind of gone a little bit, which is, it is sad. It is sad. And what do you think for sort of the rest of the season now? I mean, with that sort of, after that 2 or 3 minute press conference, after the result, how it was. I think there's another press conference tomorrow, isn't there, for the Sutton game?
Yeah, in the morning.
What, where do Arsenal sort of go from here, and how do you think, from the media point of view, the media will play it?
In terms of where Arsenal go from here, I think, barring a shock result to Sutton on Monday, they just need to focus on getting through that match, because they may be a non-league side, but I just have a feeling it could be one of those matches similar to the Bradford match a few years ago. I feel like Arsenal just need to be focusing on that for now. In terms of media reaction, everyone is going to be focusing on the contract talks now, not just for Wenger but for Ozil and Sanchez, which have obviously been dragging on throughout the season. I posted an article obviously today on Lucas Perez as well, who is unhappy at the moment because obviously he's not playing. He's just recovered, or he's currently recovering from a hamstring injury. That's why he didn't travel with the squad to Munich. Yeah. But he wants to play for Spain in the 2018 World Cup, and that's one of the reasons why he is looking at potentially moving on at the end of the season. But that obviously could change if he does play more games. But I don't think, from talking to his people and stuff, the sense is that he's probably not going to get any games or enough games. He wants to be playing in the Champions League. Obviously, that's probably not going to happen now, and the Premier League. And he's not really being rewarded for what I'd say have been pretty good performances when he's actually been involved.
It does seem like it's a tricky period for Arsenal, certainly in the next few weeks, and rebuilding confidence. Just a final question. What have you heard about sort of the board, the owner, the chief exec, in terms of a succession plan, in terms of if Arsene Wenger does move on this summer? How do you think they'll react, and do you think they have a plan in place? I mean, they've hinted that there has been a succession plan, and Ivan Gazidis has mentioned this, to me at various forums and various Q&As, but it doesn't seem, and it seems like a lot of people have been briefed, because you hear the same thing from various writers about that they haven't actually approached anyone due to the respect to Arsene Wenger. So, I mean, how do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, Akhil, you know more than me, because you've been to a lot of these events and spoken to Ivan. And one thing about the Arsenal hierarchy and the members of staff, from Ivan Gazidis to Dick Law, is they really know how to talk to people. They're fantastic communicators, and they can. I wouldn't say they're good at PR, pushing PR, positive PR, but they are. And one thing I'd say is that I think Arsenal probably, from what I've heard, are planning for life after Wenger. But I'd imagine Arsene Wenger is going to have an influence in his replacement. He's going to have a say in that, surely, because everyone's pointing out that the board, including Gazidis, have limited football experience. Obviously, Gazidis had that spell in the MLS. But before that, I think he was working for Pepsi or someone like that. So I think the limited football knowledge and experience on the board, especially someone like Sir Chips, who has already admitted he doesn't actually know too much about football, it just sort of points to Arsene Wenger being involved in that decision. And I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. I'm sure a lot of fans feel that it's probably not the best option, because it could mean Wenger Mark II coming in.
Earlier on, someone had TalkSport on, and for once Adrian Durham made some sense, and he was saying that it is time. He's been saying it for a while, but it is time for Arsene to step aside, but to hang around and educate the board in those football matters, because like us all, I'm not sure we all have the confidence. I mean, I think Ivan Gazidis is. I mean, you're right. He speaks well, but I do think he has a solid head on him. I do think he's learnt the game well. I mean, he's talked to us in the forums about sort of how he grew up, loving football and all that sort of stuff. But you're doing it at a big club, and not one person can do it alone, as kind of Arsenal is proving at the moment. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be testing times. But yeah, we shall see.
And one thing I would say about Arsene Wenger is that I think John Cross mentioned it earlier today, is that he always has a response. He always comes back. So it's going to be a huge test of his strength and ability this season to get Arsenal back on track. And, 10 points is it behind Chelsea and still in the FA Cup, of course. It's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, last night's result was absolutely crushing for the fans. And obviously, I'm a fan myself, so I'm not exactly best pleased. But at the same time, Arsenal fans, I'd say get behind the team and, hopefully it'll be a win over Sutton on Monday and go from there.
Yeah, let's hope so. Chris, great talking to you. Safe trip back. Hope you get your flight soon. And hope you make it to the press conference tomorrow morning.
Cheers, Akhil. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate.
So, Axe, having spoken to Chris and what he's told you about the press conference and the general mood around the manager and the players, what do you think that says about the situation surrounding the club at the moment? We seem to be intoxicated in this horrible, horrible atmosphere.
I mean, what Clive said about this game feeling different, and I totally agree it does, and I think it does for a few reasons. I think it does because, one, it's happened kind of over and over again. Two, because our manager is out of contract, so people can see that something needs to happen at the end of the season, whether he resigns, whether he leaves, whether he moves upstairs, whatever, something is going to happen because he is out of contract. And then I think the other thing is, we spent money last summer. We spent money on the spine. We got Mustafi in. We got Xhaka in. We've spent money on Ozil and Sanchez previously and Czech. So actually that spine isn't cheap. There's a lot of money in that spine. So I think collectively, and then it's just the frustration of obviously the Chelsea result, the Watford result, the it's happening again. It always seems to happen. And I think that frustration has just got too much for some people, and I think it's perfectly reasonable and perfectly understandable. So that's kind of what I get from what Clive said about it being different. In terms of the press conference and all that, I mean, to be honest, it was weird. It was weird for me last night, actually, because this was, for kind of personal reasons with swapping jobs and things like that, and having just got back from Basel when the draw was made. I couldn't make it to Munich, and usually when you're at a game, certainly in Europe, you're kind of there the day before, you're very excited, you're drinking a lot, you're enjoying it. Match day, you're basically singing for like 24 hours. That's what you're doing. You're just singing. And then the game comes and goes, and whatever happens. There's frustration, there's disappointment, all that sort of stuff. You tend to go back to the city centre. You tend to moan about it for a while, and then you think, well, we've got one more night in whatever city it is, so let's have a couple of drinks. And you kind of then just kind of carry on, and then you sort of, I wouldn't say forget about it, because obviously you don't forget about it, but you don't overthink it. Whereas for me yesterday, being home, and as I said, I watched it with a few friends, just at my house, and after it, that post-match stuff, I don't usually watch that, and that affected me. Hearing someone like Martin Keown, who's been such a loyalist to Arsene Wenger, and still is, and you could tell Martin Keown was struggling to really, he didn't know what to say, because I'm not sure if he had been as obvious, as kind of said what he thought, exactly what he thought, and being a bit direct, it might not have come out very well. So I think he was, he talked about that Arsene Wenger needs to save himself from himself. He's like a boxer at the end of his career, that sort of stuff. It just made you think that, God, if Martin Keown is saying this, wow.
Alex, can I come in there for a second?
Yeah.
Can I tell you why I think Martin Keown finally turned?
Go on, yeah.
Because basically what he saw was a broken team, right? So he's looking at that team as a player, and he's seeing certain players arguing amongst themselves, not taking responsibility, pointing the fingers at each other for not doing certain things. Some people not trying, some people walking. And the moment you see that, What you see, what you then extrapolate forward, and you say to yourself, the players have lost trust of the manager. And the moment I see that, it goes beyond my own personal feelings, because I care about the club mostly and the team performing. And once the players have chucked it in with the manager, and then, okay, it's my impression, it may be incorrect, but that's how it looks at certain times. They didn't trust the tactics. They didn't trust what they were doing. They weren't bought in. There wasn't the collective intensity. There wasn't the collective drive. There wasn't the collective mentality to overcome adversity. And once he saw that, he thought he may have lost the dressing room. And he knows then there's no coming back from that. You don't rebuild that trust. It's done. It's done. Yeah. And all that matters now is how, when, and what is going to happen. But the change is coming, like it's always been coming. He's been in departure lounge since Hull. We all know it. It bought him another couple of years. If Mertesacker hadn't scored that goal against Wigan, it would have happened then. He's been in departure lounge. But what concerns me is the power vacuum at Arsenal. We haven't picked a manager for 21 years, so who's going to do it? Who is the football leader of the club? The whole structure of the club needs to change. We need to replace Arsene Wenger. We need 3 people. So these are things that concern me. And everyone's throwing around their fantasy list of managers, all our sort of Euro hipster managers that are out there. Yes, some of them are great. I don't know them well enough to comment. But I'm thinking, okay, this isn't about replacing Arsene Wenger with a younger coach who's got more coaching structure and tactical acumen. This is about Arsenal Football Club. What is our structure going to be? Who's the manager going to report to? What's going to be our ambition? What's going to be our strategy? What's going to be our common goal? I don't see that at the moment. It's completely opaque. If we're going to be what I call an employer of choice, a place where star players and star managers want to come, we need to fix that. We need to fix what's happening at leadership at top to bottom of our club. Until we do, star players won't come here. When I mean star players, I don't mean broken star players who are coming out of Madrid and Barcelona because they haven't quite hit the grade and they come to Arsenal as a Premiership club in London and then we rebuild them. I'm talking about star players on the way up, like the Aubameyangs out there. You know, like that young kid at Monaco, who's 18. A few years back, he's definitely coming. Mbappe, exactly. Thanks, mate. He's coming to Arsenal. Right now, we can be competed against easily. If you're in France and you're a young kid, there's only one club to come to. Now they can have a choice of 6 or 7. And we're not top of that list. That means we're not the employer of choice any longer. And that, I don't want that to be the manager's legacy, but it looks like it's going to be. And I keep coming back to we are not acting as big as we need to, and it's a real shame. It's a real shame.
I mean, I'm sure we'll go on to that sort of successor, but just to finish what kind of I was saying. So then it's something I always watch it, but I watch it normally the day after, and that was Arsene Wenger's sort of post-match interview at BT. And you know, I've read what a lot of people have said today. I know John Cross quite well, and Crossy wrote a piece about how he's never seen Arsene Wenger like that in 20 years. And believe me, he's had some times where, you know, that summer when Nasri and Fabregas both left, he looked like he had a nervous breakdown, but he seemed to have recovered. Whereas here he looked really broken. And even, sorry, just listening to him, it kind of, a lot of people's anger just turned to sort of sadness. And a lot of pundits who have been slating him for the last few months, or years even, suddenly felt a bit sorry for him. And yeah, some were saying that the players need to take more responsibility. Some were saying that, but the fact that when people are starting to feel sorry for you, that tells you all you need to know. That tells you that you're no longer feared. That tells you you're no longer who you were, you know. And that's sad. It's very, very upsetting, but that seems to have happened. It's just, you know, that interview for me was, I mean, you know, I was already kind of ready for a change at the end of the season, but that interview there just tells me, and what Martin Keown said and what you said, Clive, actually has some logic to it. But that sort of just tells me that actually, wow, even take Arsene out of the picture, we've got a big job on here. Someone's got a big job on here. 3 people, 4 people, the board, they've got a big job on here. And are they up to it? That's the $1 million question.
I suppose to use a pretty awful metaphor, the way it is with Arsene Wenger at the moment, I sort of feel like I'm watching my nan just decay in some horrible care home in East London or something. That's the way I see it. It's just I feel like he's really on his last legs at the moment. I think that's really stating the obvious, to say the very least. But he's got to do what's right in my eyes, and he's got to come out. Someone has to come out and make it clear what the future is with regards to Arsene Wenger. Is he going to be staying on or is he going to be off? I feel for me, if that game against Chelsea wasn't the nail in the coffin, last night really showed how far we are from the likes of Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. And as Clive rightly said earlier, that's not the best Bayern Munich side we've come up against in recent years. We should have done a lot better at the Allianz last night, and it was an embarrassment.
I think the other thing, just to say there as well, is, you know, I think for years, maybe not in the last year or two, but certainly post that whole FA Cup and stuff like that, I think maybe there was sentiment keeping for a lot of people wanting to keep Arsene Wenger because of what he had done and all that sort of thing. Whereas now, actually, I think for a lot of people, it's still sentiment, but it's the other way around. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people, even who are very pro Arsene Wenger, who have loved everything he does, you know, don't say bad things about him. I think after last night, a lot of people have realised actually sentiment means I want him to go, because staying could absolutely ruin that legacy. And it's something Gary Neville talked about today as well, saying that, you know, he doesn't think the legacy will be ruined. And I think that if Arsene Wenger moves on this summer, I think he'll keep most of that legacy. There will be some people who just have lost it completely, and that's totally fair, and everyone's entitled to an opinion. But I think if he was to stay on for 2 more years and we have 2 similar seasons, then suddenly that legacy does you know, you question it, because you think, you know, if Arsene Wenger loves the club as much as he says he does, and I've got no doubt he does, then he needs to look at himself and do the right thing, and the right thing probably is to move on. And that, you know, just to say that for me is quite a big step, to be honest. But it's that legacy. He staying on. It's a massive risk. You know, I mean, and I just think that's why a lot of people last night have, when I say turned, I don't mean it in an aggressive way, but have accepted that he's not the man to take Arsenal Football Club forward.
I feel like if he is to sign this new 2-year deal, which I'm sincerely hoping that he does the right thing and announces his departure from Arsenal Football Club in the coming months, I feel that, as I say, I'm not going to say unlikely, but in the event that he does carry on with the club, it will infuriate me in the sense that we're going to enter into a comfort zone that's never been seen before. I feel that there are so many players at this club that are so comfortable playing under Arsene Wenger that they don't know what it means to be properly challenged by a manager that does know what it's like to win a title in recent years. Arsene Wenger.
You say that, but a lot of the players are internationals. So Aaron Ramsey was challenged by Chris Coleman to be the star man alongside Gareth Bale, obviously, in the Euros. Alexis Sanchez is challenged to basically have his country on his shoulders. Mesut Ozil is in a fantastic German side where you think, if you want to stay in that side, Mesut, you have to perform. And same with Laurent Koscielny, same with Olivier Giroud, there's so many players there, you know, the English lads as well, you know. Theo Walcott missed out on the World Cup. He was challenged then, and actually he responded quite well up till that injury. But so I don't know. I think sometimes just a fresh approach, you know, like we all at work, we all sometimes have new managers come in, and you are comfortable if you've been under the same manager for a while. You know their style, they know your style, they trust you to get on with things, and you change. You kind of then think, oh shit, I can't just carry on and do what I was doing. I need to prove myself again to this new guy. We all do it when we have new directors or new senior management coming in to wherever you work. You kind of think, I need to prove myself. I want to make sure this person knows I'm good, and this person looks after me. So I'm not sure that mindset would necessarily be true. But I mean, it's an opinion, James. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's just my opinion.
There's a flip side to that, Axe, as well. When you're a manager that's been at a place for a long time, what you do if you're smart is that you layer yourself. You hire smart people, nearly as smart as you. And what that does is that allows you to layer yourself, lift yourself up into a more senior role within the club, And the trick is to do that at the right time. And it seems obvious to me that Wenger has just hung on a little bit too long, and now he's risking his legacy. Right? He's risking it. And there's a real strategic decision to be made. I'm not sure on the right answer, to be honest, but I'll just throw it out there. If he was to make an announcement in the next couple of weeks, then that could completely galvanise the club in a different way. That could unite the club. That could make us look at his more positive points, knowing there's going to be change coming. It could refresh some of the many, many thousands and hundreds of thousands of Arsenal fans that have given up going to the game, given up the gospel of Wenger, and actually it could bring some of those people forward. There are many good Arsenal people out there that want to be involved in the club, so the succession planning would become a topic. But also it could bring the players forward. It could make them be much more motivated to make sure he does not get sent off in his last year with a 6th-place finish and Europa League. Or do we wait till the summer, as the club has been intimating today through David Ornstein, that we're going to wait till the summer? And all that's going to happen if we wait till the summer is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? The negativity will still be hanging over the club. The division will still be hanging over the club. We must be the most active club on social media in the whole of the Premiership, if not the world, it feels like at the moment. And that's only going to continue. And I'm not sure that's positive, because we're now being defined as a supporter base by our vitriol to one man. And it's a real shame, really, in my opinion. So we've got a decision to make. And so somebody needs to take a deep breath and make a brave decision to try to make sure this man gets in my opinion, gets the exit he deserves. But otherwise, he's not going to, and it's going to be awful to watch. I mean,
to throw it out there as well, by announcing it, and if we forget the Sutton game for a while, but if we go to Anfield, and despite announcing it, we lose, then suddenly would people then start to say, no, actually, great, he's announced it, but actually go now, because we just go now. It's making no difference. Just go now. And I think then you could have a potential no, just let him see the season out, and no, let him go now. And actually, it might not actually solve much. I've been thinking about this. I mean, I thank my employers for allowing me to get on with my job today and not talking to me too much. But I mean, I've been thinking about this the whole day, and I listened to a bit of the radio, and someone mentioned the Pellegrini effect when it was announced there. It just, players kind of lost it for him, but then you would hope that Wenger's got more respect than that from his players. But it's just, I tend to agree with you, Clive. I just think, I don't think, when people say everyone will be united and all that, I'm not quite convinced yet, to be honest. I think more people might be united, yes, but I'm not sure everyone will.
I feel like if he was announced, if it was a couple of months down the line, then it would be a more ideal time to announce it. But I mean, we've got to remember as well, we're still in February. There's still a good portion of the season to go. So I mean, these top 4 places really are up for grabs. And if he is to leave, then it is essential that we do get a top 4 finish, and somehow we do secure the long-term futures of Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil for whoever the newly appointed boss coming in will be, because they're so integral to this club.
I think announcing it if you're in the semi-final of the cup and you're 6 points clear of 5th place is kind of fine, but doing it maybe now when your season's still up, and I don't know. It's very hard, because we're Arsenal. We haven't changed managers for 20 years, as Clive just said. We don't actually know how this pans out. It's a bit of an unknown.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult one, to be fair, and it's a conversation that we've had many a time in the past. But I'm just hoping he does what's right in the end. I'm hoping that he's thinking to himself, he knows what he's going to do. And I think the reason why he's kept it so quiet now is that he just wants to focus on getting the job done, pretty much, and then he'll give the ultimatum. Hopefully, you would hope in a couple of months anyway.
He's always said he wants to leave Arsenal to the next guy in the best possible shape, the best, and that's long term and short term. So you would expect he would bare minimum would be to deliver Champions League football for the new man, to potentially be keeping your best players, and then obviously the long term future, which I think has been done with the stadium move and all that sort of stuff. So potentially that would also be on his mind, that he's always said that he wants to leave on a high. But yeah, I think the next few days for Arsene Wenger himself, he'll be doing a lot of thinking. I think he'll be confiding in the couple of close friends he does have, because I think he will. This will be it'll be a big few days. He's got a press conference tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to this. So we may know more, or listeners may even know more by the time they're listening to this. But it's going to be a big few days for him, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And as I say, as we've said throughout this, we've got to hope that he makes the decision that's not just best for him, but best for the football club, because we don't want him to tarnish his legacy, but everyone wants to unite behind him and give him the best possible send-off possible. And let's hope that's sooner rather than later, not to put it horribly.
I've got a question for you guys then. When I was listening to the radio, and I apologise for mentioning a station like TalkSport, but I mean, Adrian Durham, who, I saw a few tweets saying, oh, Adrian Durham's on next, you know what's going to happen. I just couldn't help myself but listen. And actually, I thought he was talking a fair bit of sense. And he was saying he's been calling for years for Wenger to step down because he doesn't believe he's got it anymore. But he thinks Arsene Wenger, even now, he thinks Arsene Wenger should step down, let someone else take over, but still be around the club and basically educate. The words he used were educate the board for a couple of years about football. Basically teach them about the footballing world while nurturing someone young. Whereas if Arsene Wenger's actually going to go, totally a clean break, as John Cross in the Mirror suggested, then you need that a bit more of a serial winner, maybe a more established manager come in. You probably can't give it to an up-and-coming manager, because it's just, as Clive has said, that the infrastructure there, we're not really sure who reports into who. It's like when you start a new job and you think, bloody hell, you're used to systems, but they haven't got systems. They're still doing things manually, or they're still using a filing system. I'm not saying Arsenal are, obviously, but that's kind of the comparison I'm making. And that was Adrian Durham's point. That actually, he's criticised Wenger a lot. But what he was trying to say is, he criticises him because he doesn't feel he's got it anymore in terms of from the dugout. But he's not saying he hasn't got it from elsewhere. I mean, what do you guys think? Clean break is best? Or do you think, actually, he's the one man who's got some football knowledge? Can we afford to lose him?
I think it's a lot easier said than done in that sense, because with all due respect to Stan Kroenke, I really don't think he's going to want to sit down and listen to Arsene Wenger talk football. I really don't. I don't think he has any interest in the game itself, how it's played, the players we've got. I think he's literally just using Arsenal as a cash cow because we're so consistent in getting the top four. And maybe that's me being a little bit naive to what's going on in Stan Kroenke's head, but that's the impression.
I'll come back to you, obviously. But at the same time, Stan Kroenke has so much respect for Arsene Wenger that I think if Arsene Wenger says, actually, I want to stay and I want to teach, okay, maybe not you, but I'm going to teach Josh. I want to work with Ivan. I think, whoever else we're going to bring in, I want to work with them because I feel that my knowledge is too good to pass on. Do you think Stan Kroenke would turn it down? Because I don't.
I like the principle, but I don't know. I mean, I feel with football, you're either really into it or you're really not. And I just can't. Stan Kroenke really does not strike me as the kind of person that would be too enthralled in getting involved with that sort of thing. He's not the same caliber of person as David Dein was. And I think being, having been involved with football for the majority of your career, I think that's an essential role in it. And Kroenke hasn't had that. For the majority of his time in business investment. He has with American football, but not with soccer, as they'd call it over there. So I think, in a way, it would work with someone like Ivan Gazidis. I think he's a totally different person. I think he's got... I quite like Ivan Gazidis. I know that he gets a lot of criticism, but I think he actually does a decent job. And I think he's done a very decent job in overseeing the move to the Emirates Stadium and taking what was a very, very difficult role at the time. So if Arsene Wenger was to sit down with Ivan Gazidis and give him that David Dein sort of role, then... yeah, sure. I mean, I'd be very, very, very open for it. But Clive, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm not saying he should or shouldn't, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there, Clive.
Yeah, I'm not sure anymore. I think
same mate. Totally not.
I've said it before, right? To use a cricket terminology, right? If you bat too long and don't retire your innings, you end up not winning the game. You've got to work out when the best time is to retire your innings. And I think he should have retired his innings after one of the cup final wins, he could have elevated himself and had a major influence at the club for many, many years to come, and no one would have begrudged it to him. Now there's a level of vitriol. Now there's a lack of trust. Now people have their own opinions, some of it informed, some of it misinformed. But it's just there's just too much noise for him to continue to have influence. And that's a shame, because without him, I'm not sure what's left of the club. We don't know any of the board. They're aged. We don't know their interests. We don't know their influence. We don't know their strengths or weaknesses. They're completely opaque or silent. We haven't got that, and I don't like to say it, but even someone with a dark history like Abramovich, at least he kicks every ball for that team. He's there. He's completely redone the youth. He's put his money in the club top to bottom, and he's there watching all games. He's there for every game, home and away, and he's in the dressing room, and he's completely entrenched in that club. Now, we've got nothing like that at our club. We have no people infrastructure at the top layer. We have this guy that's given his life to us for 20 years, and I will not slag him. His time is coming to an end. We all know it, but I will not slag him, because he's done everything he can do to make this club better. What we haven't got is the right leadership at the club to make sure that we hold people like him accountable. So what's going to happen to the next manager? Is it going to be the same type scenario? So the worry for me is not the manager so much manager, because that's an obvious thing. That's results driven. That will take care of itself. It's the lack of leadership that's behind the manager, the complete vacuum. And that needs to be fixed. When that's fixed, I think we can look forward a lot more positively.
That sounds like a big job. And
sounds like a horrible job.
Yeah, I don't know. Guess this is to be continued.
Yeah, anyway, before we all burst into tears, I think I'll wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone for listening to this podcast from the Gooner Ramble. Thanks to my wonderful guest tonight, Akhil. Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problems.
And Clive, always great to speak to you, mate.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, as much as I could.
Yeah,
it's always going to be difficult to talk about that, but it's an
important subject. It wasn't difficult, because let's be honest, we walk about in our shoes every single day thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it isn't actually that difficult, really. It just comes out. It's actually a bit sad, if anything, which is a shame.
Yeah, and it heals the wounds in a way when you're chatting to such intelligent people as yourselves. Anyway, as I say, I'll wrap up there. Please do drop a like on this video, this podcast, if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Gooner Ramble. Follow us on Twitter at Gooner Ramble, and we'll be speaking to you very soon.
Up the Arsenal.
This podcast is sponsored by the Tollington Arms on Hornsey Road, a bubbly pub with a Thai kitchen, home to thousands of Arsenal fans every season. Open daily from noon.